Hello, this is FreneticArrayNinja, and I'm here to bring you yet another StarCraft 2 netcast. How have you been, guys? I've missed you all, as it has been quite a while since I've actually been able to upload any videos, but here I am now, and I am back, not intending to go anywhere for quite a while, so let's go ahead and jump in and introduce these players. Spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner is the Blue Zerg. Representing Team Frenetic Array, it is going to be FreneticArrayNinja. He is an Australian Zerg, one of the top Australian Zergs actually, alongside Moonglade, and he is competing here at IEM Singapore. And we're going to see, this is the round of 16, and he is going to be up against, spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of Daybreak, we have the red Zerg player representing Team Karont3. It is going to be Karont3Vortix, the Spanish Zerg, and he is actually a very strong Zerg who has really been building a name for himself as of late, as he has recently taken second at WCF Europe, and also is the older brother of Lucifron, who's a very strong and scary Terran who is really well known for his Hellion harassment. But I mean, we're going to have a really awesome Zerg versus Zerg on our hands over here. And once again, this is from the round of 16 of IEM Singapore. I am planning on casting pretty much everything from the round of 16 up of that tournament. So that's what you can pretty much look forward to in the future coming days on my channel. So if you missed out on it, I know a lot of you guys missed out on it. I actually missed out on watching it live just because I was watching DreamHack and also watching, I was watching it. There were so many tournaments going on at the time, so I don't blame anyone for missing out on it. As you know, as humans, we do have to sleep. As you know, I don't know if Protoss actually sleep, but Terrans definitely have to sleep. So, no shame in that. But in the meanwhile, we do see that this game is starting to pick up. We see a hatchery at first out of both these players, and on a map like Daybreak, I don't really blame these players, as you can kind of get away with it just because of how long the rush distances are. And of course, immediately followed up by spawning pool then gas from Ninja, and in the meanwhile, gas then spawning pool from Vortex. So slight variations, but I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. And just a couple of interesting notes as they start to develop into their builds, and we end up seeing when exactly those Baneley nests are going to be thrown down, whether or not the spawn or the gas is going to be taken out, or those drones are going to be taken out of gas, I should say. A couple of cute notes. So Ninja is actually a very interesting player just because, you know, he has been participating in things like Go for SC2, Zotac and such, but he hasn't really gotten any big international offline wins on his belt. So he's going to be really looking at IEM Singapore to get something like that. This is going to mean a lot for him, but at the same time, I mean, he went 2 and 3 in his group, I think taking 3rd place, and I mean, barely qualifying for the round of 16, but he did manage to get some really good games in there. Protoss versus Zerg against White Raw managed to 2-0 him, but unfortunately, he actually lost both of his Zerg versus Zergs, which were against 2 very strong Korean Zergs. I'll give him that, which was Revival and Zenio. But still, it is going to be a little bit difficult, as he has shown that Zerg versus Zerg is not necessarily his strongest matchup. And in the meanwhile, we have Vortex, who's, you know, a slightly more well-known player of, actually a former Warcraft 3 player. And he's also known as the slow linking, not really showing that style today over here, as we can see. Spawning pool coming out as well. And actually, we're getting that Baneley nest down for Vortex, and just slightly delayed behind Ninja, but I mean, Vortex has shown that his Zerg vs. Zerg has been relatively strong. Now, I'll admit, again, he did not play against Korean Zergs as Ninja was forced to, but at the same time, Vortex was able to go 2-1 in Zerg vs. Zergs, only losing one of them, so I think that he should have a relatively strong Zerg vs. Zerg, and I would say that he is a little bit more favored in this matchup. But in the meanwhile, we finally see the first set of Zerglings kind of poking their way out from Vortex very late in the game, and they're going to have to see how much they can scout out, and a really great pickoff from Ninja, especially with that Queen over there perfectly prepared, as well as with those 4 Zerglings able to deny for the most part almost any of the scouting that Vortex would like to get. And that's actually going to force a spine crawl out of Vortex. Vortex doesn't really know 100% of what his opponent's up to, and in the meanwhile, he's going to be going for the Devil Evolution Chamber, so wouldn't be too surprised to see either a Roach Warren probably pop out very soon, or at least some kind of big Zergling aggression coming out of from, as we do actually see guys still in gas. And in the meanwhile, we have a pretty fast layer coming down in relation to Vortex. And coming out from Ninja, he also has this second gas geyser up, and with that, he's going to have a Roach Warren coming out. So this layer is likely just going to be used for that Galilial reconstitution that allows those roaches to move a little bit faster. So probably going to be seeing some cool play out of Ninja involving roaches in the near future, but he's going to have to be careful because he might be a little bit down in upgrades as we end up seeing the 2 Zerglings from Vortex getting into the main base, seeing everything, and most importantly, seeing that layer timing and the roach horn. He's going to have a very good idea of what's going to be going on, and I think Vortex is actually going to be queued into a position where he's going to say, you know what, I made all these drones right now, but now that I know what my opponent's up to, I think I can hit a timing attack with the +1/+1 finishing up, or either that or he's going to have to throw down a roach horn or something. We do end up seeing him starting that layer, and that could actually be one response. If he can just delay his opponent long enough, he can actually go into the Mutilus tech and then eventually transition into Infestors, but he's going to have to get some of those units out. He has to be very wary of a possible counter attack with that roach force that Ninja is actually going to be able to build up very soon, since I mean, he has that +1 missile attacks that are being researched, as well as like Galileo reconstitution. He can start producing roaches very soon. Here we go. Here are some of those Zerglings coming in. They're going to try and see, okay, is there a third down? No, it doesn't look like there is. So he's just going to go ahead and retreat back, see what damage he can probably do over to the natural expansion. He's probably going to need to build up a couple of those Zerglings before he can actually move in, as we actually see that the Zergling count is relatively similar for both of these players, and +1/+1 is not quite finished up for Vortex. Now, one thing that +1 armor is going to mean for Vortex is that Banelings will actually take 2 hits to kill a Zergling. That is absolutely huge in those big engagements. Now, we actually see Vortex just saying, you know what, I have the slight advantage just because even though I'm not going for that tech, I am able to get up this faster third expansion. So that's where he's going to be looking for that advantage. Now, we do end up seeing that it looks like Ninja wants to throw up his own third, so he's going to try and take that, but I'm questioning if he's going to be able to safely defend it against this giant Zergling pressure that's coming out. And we see that Ninja is trying to burrow the spine crawler, but it's not going to burrow in time. He has to be very careful, but at the same time, he has some Banelings. So where are Vortex's Banelings? A decent Baneling hit going off over there, but look at this. The Zergling count is just not high enough. We need some roaches coming in, and we also have some Banelings actually coming in, but look at this giant Zergling reinforcement coming out from Vortex. He gets a cancel off on the third of Ninja, and that's actually going to be actually huge in this game, as I mean, Vortex is going to have his third finishing up in just a couple of seconds, and there it actually is. And in the meanwhile, Vortex will just go ahead and retrieve. What is Ninja to do at this point? He has those roaches out, and he has a couple of Banelings actually to try and now defend this third expansion once again, but I mean, as soon as he tries to move out, Vortex can just go in for that counterattack. It's going to be so difficult for Ninja to actually move out. In the meanwhile, I believe that Vortex uses this as an opportunity to get up that infestation pit. That is going to be absolutely critical. And I mean, we can see actually though, at the same time, I take back what I said. Ninja was able to get up his own infestation pit, as well as research that pathogen glands upgrade. So that means his infestors are going to be popping with that energy for fungal growth very soon. And Vortex actually has to be a little bit careful about that, because I mean, you don't really see it too often, but a good fungal growth on some of those Zerglings can actually be spell disaster. And we actually see these Zerglings chasing after some of those infestors, and if they actually are able to pick off those infestors, even getting 1 or 2 of them, I would actually say it's completely worth it, considering it's just a pure mineral trade for a gas trade. But it looks like they were able to be picked off without too much damage being sustained by Ninja. But at the same time, you know, Vortex was looking to transition a little bit outside of that Zergling tech, as we should. Do we actually have a roach horn down? No! Oh my god, Vortex is just going for the incredibly fast hive tech. This is such an interesting play, as he's actually going to be going for +2/+2 at the same time. I think that we're going to see Vortex go for an incredibly fast Ultralist transition, and I mean, that's going to be so interesting to see against what Ninja is doing, as Ninja is going to be looking to put on a little bit of aggression. Now, in response, Vortex knows he has to have some units up, of course, to defend against those roaches, so he's thrown up a very large wall of spine crawlers, and of course, it looks like Ninja does manage to scout this out with this Overlord over here, and doesn't seem to see the Overlord or the spine crawlers being thrown down over the third, but he must suspect that there must be some kind of defense. So he's just going to say, you know what, sit back and take a fourth behind all this. You know, you can't really put on a huge amount of aggression right now, but honestly, I think he might actually have a bit of a misread on the situation right now, as with +2/+2 going to be finishing up, he's going to be quite a bit far behind in upgrades, as it's going to be +2 missile attack versus +2/+2. And with Ultralist coming out, that's going to be so difficult to actually deal with. And we can see over here, Adrenal Gland's going to be coming out, Ultralist Cavern being thrown down for Vortex, and things are looking very scary, very scary for Ninja. He's going to try, oh my god, did he actually it was a cancel force over here with some Zerglings that could actually be very, very detrimental to Ninja's game plan, as we can actually even see a couple more Zerglings going to be coming in. They won't be able to actually cancel off on this 4th expansion, but they could actually be able to do a little bit of damage. Nope. Infestors say, nah, we're not having any of this. No Zergling run-bys in the late game. He is on top of it with those Infestors. I like the little split up over there, but at the same time, I mean, trading 4 or 5 Zerglings for fungal growth, I mean, you're wasting some of that energy. That's going to be very annoying, as those Infestors are definitely going to need the energy when those Ultralists start to pop out. And I mean, you might be thinking fungal growth not very effective against Ultralists, and that's completely true, because Ultralists do have that crazy, I don't even know what the upgrade is called, but basically they're crazy, so you can't actually fungal growth them. You can't use any kind of stuns or anything of the sort, so they won't actually get stun locked, but they will still take the damage from the fungal growth. So fungal growth not as useful, but Infested Terran is going to be very useful, and we're going to have to wait and see if that's going to actually even come into play, as we actually see the Ultras are going to be popping very soon. Vortex throwing out some Infested Terrans. He knows that he has to hold off until those Ultras come out, but there are Hydralisks out on the map with +2 weapons, and looks like Ninja's not actually going to attack. We don't actually see any kind of counter aggression pulling him back or anything of the sort. He's just deciding, you know what, I don't think I can do a whole lot of damage right now, so he's going to pull back, especially with all those Infestors. He has to be so careful, as he has to remember that Vortex has a very Zergling heavy army, so I mean, he can't really afford to leave these Infestors too vulnerable. Has to be very, very careful about that. But with these Ultras out, it looks like Vortex is going to feel safe trying to secure that 3rd expansion in the center. But I feel like, you know what, once he hits +3/+3, he's going to try and max out as fast as he can on the remaining Ultras, and Zerglings are going to be popping out, and just go for it. I feel like that would be the best game plan for him right now, just because, I mean, once you have that upgrade advantage and you cannot start researching a +4/+4, you might as well go for it. I mean, you have to do some damage and take advantage of the fact that you have that such a significant advantage in the upgrade count. We can actually see +1 Carapace is going to be finishing up for Ninja, but oh my god, Ninja's got his own Hive Tech up. Hold that thought. We actually have Zerglings swarming into the 3rd expansion. We're going to see how much damage they can do. They're using that whole position. They're able to take out a good number of those drones, but was it enough? I feel like the main thing that he's going to be doing is pulling Ninja back and maybe pulling him out of position. Look at all these units that are going to be sitting over here at the natural expansion, and in the meanwhile, he could have actually pushed in over at the 4th expansion. Look how vulnerable it would have been. But, I mean, it looks like he's going to still have that opportunity, as we can see. Look at all these units trying to push out. But, oh my god, this Overseer over here should have actually gotten a good scout off on all of those units moving in. That actually keyed off Ninja to move all of his units back over the 4th. And he's just basically sitting there wondering, what are you planning, Vortex? What are you planning to do? I mean, your name is Vortex, but you don't have access to a Mothership Vortex. So, I mean, what is your response going to be against the Broodlord transition that's about to come out? We don't actually see any cartridges on the map, but look at this, a giant engagement going down. Look at the fungal growth going down. The roaches, they are completely locked in, and these Ultras are just getting so much clean damage with that +3/+3 upgrade, and look at how cleanly Vortex is able to clean up the entire army of Ninja. And what does Ninja have to respond? He's trying to throw spine calls. There's actually going to be the GG coming out from Ninja. So really well played by both these players, but unfortunately it looks like those +3/+5 Ultralists. You have to remember that chitinous plating upgrade is just going to prove too much, and a really, really well done play by Vortex. Seals did exactly what he needed to do. He was able to take advantage of that very fast Hive Tech, take advantage of knowing, you know what, I'm ahead on the upgrades because I went double Evolution Chamber and my opponent only went single Evolution Chamber. My opponent opted to say, you know what, I'm going to go for a faster lair tech with those roaches, and Vortex said, you know what, as long as I'm able to defend against any kind of +1 roach timing attack, I'm going to have the upgrade advantage for the entire game. And then I also have the tech advantage once he gets up that very fast Hive Tech off of not getting that roach tech up at all. So he was able to get a faster infestation pit, didn't have to invest that gas into roaches, and was able to just immediately go into Hive. So really, really smart play from Vortex. But you know what? That play is not going to work twice. Ninja now knows what just happened over there. He's definitely going to be looking at that very end of the game, going to be clicking on those Ultras and be like, oh my god, I was so far behind in upgrades, and I allowed my opponent to get up those Ultras so fast. My Broodlord tag had just barely finished, and I wasn't able to make use of it. So he's going to be thinking in game number 2, because this is a best of 5 series. That does mean that this, or sorry, a best of 5. You have to win at least 3 games to advance on to the round of 8. So, I mean, Ninja's definitely going to have some new builds coming up into the late game of Zerg versus Zerg. So, I'm really curious to see what that's going to be. And, of course, that does mean Ninja gets to pick the map. I'm curious to see what's going to end up happening, so I'll see you guys in game number 2. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys there.